Greetings to all of you around the world. I so appreciate how we are supporting each other as a community, making connections with each other in this profound time of transformation on the planet. Today I want to speak with you about the Pluto-Mars cycle. That cycle started March 22nd of this year when Mars went conjunct Pluto at 24 degrees of Capricorn. This is a powerful cycle that's coming in the midst of this profound time of the transits of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter together in Capricorn. As I've talked about in earlier videos, that combination is guiding us individually and collectively in letting go of the structures and patterns of the past that no longer serve us. I believe these transits are midwives guiding us into the age of Aquarius that I believe will fully begin in November 2024 when Pluto moves fully into Aquarius. So we are in an accelerated time of change when we are really being guided to let go of the paradigms of the age of Pisces, to let go of the paradigms of the patriarchal hierarchical period. We're being guided into the paradigms of Aquarius, which are new forms of community that don't emphasize competition, but instead collaboration, that aren't looking at individuation and how I get ahead on my own, as opposed to connection and community and compassion and justice for all. We're being guided back into balance and into right relationship within ourselves, with each other, and with the earth. So in the midst of that powerful combination of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, Mars was in that mix conjunct Pluto in March. Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. So what does that mean? We know that Mars has to do with how we exert our will, how we manifest our choices in our lives by the decisions we make and the actions we take. When Mars is in conjunction with Pluto, Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. So if you think of Mars as my individual will and how I am acting and expressing that, think of Pluto as the will of the cosmos, the expression of cosmic consciousness. Pluto is that powerful planet of transformation that guides us to burn away what no longer serves us, to be in the truth of who we are. Pluto helps us align our actions and our choices, our will, with cosmic consciousness. It burns away the ways in which our ego can pull us into distortions, or the ways in which we get caught in destructive actions. It is calling us through a time of transformation to come into alignment and make choices from that place. So Pluto conjunct Mars in March was the beginning of that cycle. What's profound is June 28th, Mars will move into the sign of Aries, which is the sign in the zodiac that Mars is the ruler of. And then as we move into August, from August 1st through January 6th, 2020, Mars will be squaring Pluto with a 5-degree orb. So for that 5-month period of time, we will be in the first square of that cycle with Pluto and Mars. And that cycle is about 2 years. We'll begin a new cycle of Pluto with Mars in March 2022. When we come to that first square in a planetary cycle, it's called the crisis in action. If you think about a cycle as a new beginning, a new phase with the interactions, the archetypal energies of those two planets, when you get to the first square, it's the time where you're in that journey, and in this case it's a 2-year journey, and you are assessing, how am I reconfiguring my actions and expressing myself in alignment with this new phase? How profound it is that we're in this journey with Pluto and Mars as we all collectively move out of a time of quarantine from the pandemic with COVID-19 and are reassessing and reorienting and figuring out, what do we do next? How are we reconstructing our lives? How are we moving in new directions or making new choices, individually and globally? So as we come into that time of Mars square Pluto in August, it is a time to be stepping back and reflecting. As we're in that process of reorienting how we're expressing our will and how we're acting, where we're channeling our energy. Think of the meaning of Mars in Aries. Mars in Aries has its gifts and its shadow side. Mars is the ruler of Aries, and at its best, Mars in Aries is the willingness to take risks, to move in new directions, to take initiative, to act in that sense of trust that we will learn and grow as the experience unfolds. We don't need to know the destination or the end point. We feel that fire, that spark of creativity, of initiative, and we move in new directions. The shadow side of Mars in Aries, if we're not working with it consciously, or if we're out of balance, or if we're really caught in our own individual egos, Mars in Aries can mean being impulsive, reactive, quick to anger, and at its most extreme, it can mean aggression, violence, acting out in destructive ways. So as we're in this profound time of Pluto square Mars, we're likely to see the full spectrum of the manifestations of that. But as those of us who are conscious are working with the deeper meaning of this configuration, we can seed that and hold that energy for the collective. As we're approaching Mars moving into Aries at the end of this month and then into this square in August, we're already feeling and seeing the energy of Mars brewing in our lives and in our collective. We're seeing protests around the world. We're seeing people taking action, standing up for truth, for justice. These are the new paradigms that we're all trying to move into. And Mars is beginning to motivate us and energize us to move in those new directions. But as we continue in that dance with Pluto and Mars, it will intensify as we move more fully into that square. And it's important to know that during that time that Mars is squaring Pluto, from August to the beginning of January 2021, Mars will also be going retrograde. And that will be from September 11th to November 13th. Now remember, when Mars is retrograde, That's ideally a time when we're stepping back and reflecting and working consciously with our actions and our choices and how we're asserting ourselves. Because the retrograde is a guide to be more introspective, to turn inward and work more consciously with the energies of that planet. However, again, if that retrograde energy is not worked consciously, it can mean even more impulsive, reactive ways of expressing that Mars energy. So how are we supported in working with this combination of Pluto square Mars in a more conscious way and in a more in balance way? I think it's extraordinary that as Mars moves into that square, shortly after that, and for most of July, Mars will be next to Chiron. Chiron is coming into play, helping us heal the ways in which we have acted or expressed ourselves or been out of balance with our Mars energy. Chiron coming into play is guiding us to look at our self-destructive patterns or how we've acted out in ways that are harmful to others. Chiron is saying, heal yourself. Take time to look at the ways in which your actions may be an expression of your trauma rather than your deeper truth. And be more conscious of the choices that you're making. Then, as we move deeper into that process of Pluto square Mars, I think it's extraordinary that in August, both Aries Xena and Black Moon Lilith come into connection with Mars. And Aries Xena will be there through the whole time, rest of the time of the Mars square Pluto. And Lilith will be there August through October. So first we have Chiron coming in to help us heal and be more conscious of how our will is in alignment with divine will, with the will of the cosmic consciousness. And then Aries Xena and Black Moon Lilith are coming in to guide Mars, which is associated with the energy of the sacred masculine. Mars is associated with the hero's journey, how we launch on our path of individuation and separation to be in our own journey of exploration and discovery. Aries Xena and Lilith are coming into play saying, how are you balancing your individual will, your energy of the sacred masculine, with the energy of the sacred feminine? This is the paradigm we're moving into with the age of Aquarius. How do we integrate the sacred masculine with the sacred feminine to come back into balance? And Mars, which is so much the planet that embodies our expression of the sacred masculine, is being guided to enter into deeper understanding and relationship with the sacred feminine. Black Moon Lilith is associated with the age before the patriarchal period, the age of Taurus. Lilith is associated with that time when we honored the earth. We honored the sacred in all of life. And there was no hierarchical imbalance between men and women. There was true equality, mutual respect, balance. So Lilith is coming into connection with Mars saying, let's move into mutual respect between the genders and that sense of respect for the sacred in all of life, in everyone that we interact with, and with all of the life forms around us. Eris Xena coming into connection with Mars. Remember, that is the dwarf planet that is very distinctive in that she doesn't follow the path of the ecliptic like most of the other planets in our solar system. She's actually 44 degrees off the ecliptic. So when we talk about Eris Xena coming into connection with Mars, she is not connecting with Mars on the path of the ecliptic, but we're seeing a time where she is in her orbit is in alignment with Mars on the ecliptic. This is a powerful way in which Eris Xena is energizing Mars with her archetypal energy of being willing to step off the beaten track. Eris Xena is that planet that is on her own path of creativity and discovery because she dares to step out of consensual reality and listen to her own inner truth, the guidance of the cosmos, and follow the path that she feels is in right balance with all that is, the path that is healing and creative, because she's willing to move in radically new directions. So she's supporting Mars and saying, you don't have to keep acting in the ways that you have in the past. You don't have to stay connected to the conventional norms and external expectations. Dare to be different. Dare to be true to yourself, even if it means venturing into the unknown. Don't cling to the old familiar patterns or the old ways of doing things because you think that gives you a sense of security or control. Step off the beaten path. Move in these new directions, into these new paradigms. I think it's amazing that we're getting that support in this time when, coming out of this time of quarantine, we're seeing this sense of disorientation and confusion and uncertainty as many are trying to reconstruct the patterns of the past, return to normal. And many of us realize we can't go back to those old patterns. They're ultimately out of balance, destructive, needing to be transformed. So Eris Xena is giving us that courage to be creative, to step into the unknown and move towards these new Aquarian paradigms. So Mars is being guided in how to transform. And we are being encouraged to take this time, particularly these initial months as we move in, as Mars moves in to the sign of Aries, then into that square. And the beginning of that time, August, September, October, when it is the time to be reassessing. What are you doing in your life? What job are you putting your energy into? What actions are you taking in relationship with the people that you live with and the people around you? Where do you focus your energy? What decisions are you making? Are you willing to have the courage to step off the beaten path and into new creative ways of being? This is an intense time, and we're likely to see a lot of turbulence in this time. And we're apt to see increased reactivity as we're continuing in this time of polarization. Many who are caught in fear and feeling the uncertainty of these times are feeling reactive and lashing out or acting out. That's very different than the focused actions we're seeing with the peaceful protests all around the world, saying we need to change the systems of our culture, of our world, to be more just and fair to everyone around us. But change triggers tumult, and Pluto is the planet of transformation. So we're in a cauldron, and in this turbulent time, you may find a lot of feelings getting activated. Times of anxiety, uncertainty, confusion, frustration, anger. Honor all those feelings that arise in you. Hold them with compassion. But be guided by the energy of Chiron and then the energy of Mars going retrograde to step back, to be in your witness self, to take time to come back into alignment with your heart, with your soul self, with the earth and sky, to make choices from that place of alignment. Then we will be held, we will be guided by these powerful energies that are supporting us in healing and moving through this time of transformation. And then those of us who are working these energies consciously can be the pioneers, the innovators, the creative ones, that in our own ways we're manifesting the new forms and co-creating a new world that is more just and compassionate and in balance, honoring of each other and of the earth and of the sky, honoring our oneness, our interconnectedness. May we together attune to these energies of Pluto and Mars, honor this powerful time of transformation that we're in, and allow our individual will to be in alignment with the earth and sky and cosmic consciousness. Blessed be.